In this demonstration we will look at the setup for passing steam over heated magnesium to show the reactivity of magnesium metal at temperature with water. The setup is the tricky part. The first thing to do is to put some mineral wool or some glass wool, if allowed, into the bottom of a boiling tube and to soak it with water. Next, take a piece of magnesium ribbon, coil it loosely so that as much of the surface of the magnesium springs into contact with the boiling tube as possible. Tight winding doesn't work well. If you've got old magnesium, it's advisable to run a piece of sandpaper, glass paper, over the surface to get rid of the corroded coating before you make the coil. Try and get the coil mid-boiling tube. This is not so easy. You'll find the end of a pencil usually helps if you don't have a spatula to hand. Set the apparatus up so that you've got several boiling tubes or test tubes with appropriately sized bungs into a trough of water, and use a rubber tubing connected to your bung. Remember to clamp the bunged end of the tube as close to the end as possible, heating the magnesium rather than burning the bung or burning the cork on the clamp stand or the rubber on the clamp stand, depending on your setup. To get the reaction going, strongly heat the magnesium until it just starts to ignite. There is, of course, some oxygen in the test tube that will allow this to happen. As soon as you see a glow, flick the flame of your Bunsen burner onto the wool to get the water to boil to steam, which will then pass over the hot magnesium and start to react. At the same time, or with some help, collect the bubbles of gas that are being produced. Now, of course, the first few bubbles of gas will be displaced air. That's not a bad thing. You'll note that the tubes are full of water at the start. This method is the downward displacement of water by a gas. Once you've got the tube bunged, put the bung in the water as I've done here, and you'll make it a lot easier. Collect a second and possibly a third. At the end of the experiment, remember to remove the tubing from the water bath, otherwise you'll get suck back where cold water will come into your very hot tube and cause it to crack. Sometimes you might want to do that just to show the principle of suck back. It may well be that the magnesium burns so hot in the tubes that you're using that the tubes crack anyway, so it's a good idea to have a heat-proof mat underneath. If it does split, it's easier to show the alkaline properties of the solid residue by using damp indicator paper, such as damp red litmus. Occasionally the hydrogen that you collect is so pure it doesn't pop, but it merely burns. One way around this is to take a tube of air, mix it with a tube of hydrogen, open both so that the openings of the tubes are downwards, and ignite both at the same time. Or if you remember what was the original hydrogen, do that one first. You'll get a much bigger bang. If you don't have a portable Bunsen burner as I used here, make sure the Bunsen burner that you use has a long enough rubber tubing to make it easy to manipulate.